good evening, good afternoon. This is Big J, and I am interviewing Dakarai Larriett um, from the great state of Alabama. He's the senatorial candidate for next year's senatorial election. And good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me on, Big J.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I saw your I think I saw you knew about you on Roland Martin. I think Roland Martin featured you in one of his uh I think it was on the Facebook, I believe, and I was more interested in you because you were talking about police brutality. Um, can you please offer like the reason why you are running, and can you go a little bit about the the what happened on you on April 10th, 2024 in Michigan State?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
that really is the beginning of my political life. It was a false arrest that happened while I was driving through the state of Michigan as an Alabama resident.
Hmm.
And I was apprehended by the state police. I was accused of so many things: running red lights, driving under the influence of alcohol, driving under the influence of drugs, and at one point, even accused of smuggling drugs into the jailhouse when I was forced to use the restroom publicly in front of the booking officers and the troopers. And it
Hmm.
actually became the title of my book, Don't Flush. So the trooper forced me to use the restroom in the booking area and yelled at me, "Don't flush," accusing me of smuggling drugs by way of ingestion into the jailhouse. It was a horrific night. And about 5.5 months after the incident, I did finally receive the body and dash cam as a result of a FOIA request. And we discovered, my lawyer and I, that the troopers were attempting to plant drugs in my vehicle. And at that point, it all made sense. The profiling that happened that night, the insults, the searching the vehicle, which we saw on camera, it all made sense what was happening that night. And I have since sued the Michigan State Police, and we are now in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is just one step below the United States Supreme Court. And we are waiting for our day to get justice from this night.
And what are, if you don't mind me asking, what are the damages that you are seeking? Are you seeking a change of laws, or when it comes to is it something more than just the money, or so forth? What are you seeking for damages?
Well, it's interesting. Initially, we filed a complaint with the Michigan State Police internally.
Hmm.
So my ask was terminate the troopers. These individuals are not fit for service and they're a danger to the public. In fact, over the last couple of months, I've had folks reach out to me to say not only are they having the same issues with Michigan State Police, the same troopers. So the
Hmm.
exact same troopers are doing the same things to the public, and these folks remain on staff, paid, fully compensated at taxpayer expense. So that was my first request, and my ongoing request is to terminate the troopers. And separately, I'm also in the midst of what's called a Michigan Department of Civil Rights complaint.
Hmm.
And that will also be another form in which to mediate and drive restitution. And namely, for me, that is terminate the troopers and stop this behavior. And that's where it started. Now, my internal complaint was dismissed. They found no wrongdoing at all. And millions of people have seen the video from that night.
Right.
It was obviously profiled, it was hostile. They did not follow normal procedure. I was subjected to 7 sobriety tests in the cold when I was clearly sober.
Hmm.
So it's laughable that they dismissed that complaint. So the next step after advocating up to Governor Whitmer's office, advocating to the attorney general. I attempted to file a police report against the police and was laughed at. My final recourse was to sue the state police. And within my lawsuit, we're also demanding that all of my personal information be expunged from the system. So it was such a violation to have my blood taken. I tested negative for alcohol on the spot, but they still jailed me. I want all of the photos, everything from that night expunged. And
Okay.
yes, I do want a financial compensation. And my lawyer determined that the damages due me are $10 million. dollars. And that represents a complete breakdown in justice. My Fourth Amendment rights against search and seizure were violated. They maliciously prosecuted me. This case has cost me tens of thousands of dollars. And frankly, how do you put a price on freedom? The
Right.
troopers conspired to plant drugs in my vehicle and maliciously jailed me for no reason.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So, the next question I would like to ask is, with the racial history, and because like you from Alabama, so with the racial history and the political makeup of Alabama, what leads you into serving in the Senate seat? Um, I think that we already. I mean, what made you what leads you to serve the Senate, and serve you representing Alabama in the United States Senate?
Well, it
Right.
comes from a deep love of the state,
Uh-huh.
Big J. So I'm born and raised here in Alabama. My family history goes back to the 1800s, as far as we can trace here in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see the state do better. And
Okay.
I am so fortunate that I've been given the best of Alabama. My mom was a teacher and is a teacher here for most of my life, so about 40 years. And she was able, with her positions, to move me into the best schools, even though my local schools were failing in Birmingham, Alabama. So I
Mm-hmm.
was able to go to gifted schools. I was able to get into charter programs where I got the skills to excel. And then from there, went on to the University of Alabama, where I graduated with honors. I had a full ride, including tuition, including room and board, including study abroad. Those opportunities have positioned me for where I am today, speaking to you, running for United States Senate. So I want everyone to have those opportunities that I had: a quality education, economic opportunity, good health care, cost-effective health care. So that's ultimately what has led me to run for office. As I've spoken to Alabamians up and down the state, many people feel left behind because the state's not investing in these critical kitchen table issues.
Right. Okay. So, I don't know if I might. It might sound um well, I might sound redundant. So what are the biggest issues that you want to solve in Alabama? What are the priorities, I should say, and how would that fit into the fabric of the nation as a whole?
Well, I've spent months polling Alabamians and traveling up and down the state. I
Hmm.
just got back from Montgomery. I was there yesterday. It is very clear what matters to Alabamians, and they are those kitchen table issues that we discussed a little bit earlier. The
Hmm.
first one is education. So, our per pupil spending is below national averages and targets. And what that means is our children are not given a good head start on life. So, we've got to start making those investments at pre K. We've got to make the investments from K to 12, and then we've got to make college more affordable. Our education attainment rankings like 45 out of 50, meaning folks just aren't even completing the program within the state. That's the first priority. Then healthcare. So,
Hmm.
healthcare in the state is atrocious. We have deserts of healthcare throughout the state. We have parts of the state where women are driving 2 hours to get maternal care. we have maternal death rates that are something like a developing nation. So
Hmm.
there's huge opportunity there, and we need a fighter in the Senate who is going to go to bat every single time for Medicaid and Medicare funding. And then finally, economic opportunity. So ensuring that once we make those front end investments, that everyone gets a fair chance. And for me, I actually had to leave the state to build a career. When I graduated in 2004, I couldn't find work in the state. So I ended up in New York City.
Okay.
I don't want folks to feel like they have to leave the state to build a career. We've got to support folks here in state with better wages, job training programs, and bring the right industries into the state that will up level the opportunities.
So when going back to your Medicare, so are you for Medicare for all, or are you for
Well,
some other type of system
what I would like to
long
do
run?
is give Americans a choice.
Hmm.
And I think it's not realistic, it's not pragmatic to say we're all going to be on a program. Keep in mind, we have an entire medical industrial complex, and I actually spent part of my career in the insurance business.
Hmm.
So I don't foresee a full scale Medicare for all single payer setup happening anytime soon, but I want to provide an option to people who want a government backed program. Let's see if it works. And once it does, I am sure it will take off. We've seen this work in our neighbor, Canada. We've seen it work in other nations. So I believe in an option.
Okay, okay. So like you want more of an option similar to that. There was a debate during when Obamacare was before Obamacare becomes law. There was talk of the option to opt in and opt out.
Mhm.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, I think what's really interesting is we have 50 amazing states and they can all experiment. And even cities like New York, where I used to live,
Hmm.
can experiment. For example, Mondani is talking about government backed grocery stores. I say, yeah, give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. Let's create an option for people to buy a government backed insurance program
Hmm.
that is affordable, that offers quality care, and people are going to fall in love with it. But what we're dealing with now, and essentially what the government shutdown was about, is better than what we had 15 years ago, right? But it's
Right.
not optimal. It's not affordable. It truly is not. And even with the subsidies, folks are spending $1,000 a month for insurance just in case something happens. And then if something happens, it becomes what, like a $20,000 bill? This is not optimal at all. So we do need to provide an option. Let's experiment. Let's see how it works. And I think it'll take off from there.
Okay. Okay. Um, Let me move on to something else. So on your website, you mentioned gun control, stating that we need to keep weapons out of the hands of criminals. What exactly does that look like without causing any more hardship on owners who are law abiding? Um, because criminals don't obey laws. What say you? What about those who are law abiding gun owners?
Well, I'm one of those law-abiding gun owners, but we still need restrictions to ensure everyone's safety. And here in Alabama, we are dealing with a gun violence epidemic. So there's some very simple things that we can do. They include training programs, helping people understand how to keep guns safely and to
Hmm.
protect exposure to children. And you mentioned unlawful gun owners, right?
Right.
Well, the biggest source of their guns is from lawful gun owners. So, how do we educate people on how to store their vehicles, or rather, how to store their guns? What we found in places like Birmingham is people were actually having their guns stolen from their vehicles. And that was contributing to the gun violence problem because these individuals are taking them out of the vehicles. and then committing crimes with them. We also need to have background checks and, again, ensure that the right people are getting the guns and that they're using them safely. And I think we also need red flag laws. And at the end of the day, no system is perfect. This is not going to guarantee zero deaths, but we have a responsibility to try.
Okay. Okay. Um, Next question I'd like to ask is given your um, ties to the community, your strong ties, served on various boards and organizations. Have you had the opportunity to work with local leaders and state leaders in local and state leaders in Alabama?
Absolutely. So, one of the most interesting experiences for me was when I moved back to Alabama in the midst of the pandemic. I bought a loft in Birmingham
Hmm.
and ended up realizing it had a number of structural issues, and to be expected from 120-year-old building. And it required me to essentially take a crash course in civics. I had to figure out what department issues code violations. How do I escalate something that's not being done properly? So I was able in that process of rectifying the issues in my condo building to, one, build relationships with the mayor, build relationships with the city council president. I had to figure out how to flag issues with regard to the lawyers that were facilitating the transactions within the building. So it was a really eye-opening experience. And ironically, I even filed complaints against the developer of my building with the attorney general, who is now my opponent in the Senate race.
You talking about the I forgot his name now. Is it Luther Strange, or I forgot who's the Attorney General in Alabama? Um,
Steve Marshall.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. I was kind of confused who was the Attorney General in Alabama. 'Cause I'm in Texas, so I'm kind of not familiar that much with Alabama politics. Um, and my next question is, you know, speaking about what you said earlier, what implications do you foresee that the big beautiful bill, Trump's big beautiful bill, imposed on your state, and how do you plan on combat those? What's about to happen? That's what's being
Well,
intimate.
the big billionaire bill, that is.
Right,
So
right.
there are a number of challenges that are coming with that bill. In fact, I went up to Washington to protest the bill alongside Representative Maxine Waters over the summer.
Hmm.
And my biggest concern with the bill is the impact on our health care. So, with the increased cost sharing requirement that is mandated by this bill, it is going to become untenable for Alabama to continue supporting healthcare, Medicaid, in the way that it does now. And Medicaid is a critical program here in the state of Alabama. One out of five people in the state depend upon that program. So we're going to see some major gaps in healthcare. And what folks don't realize is while you may not personally be on the program, we share facilities, we share doctors, we share infrastructure. When that starts to break down, we're going to see an exodus of medical talent in the state. So we're all going to become sicker. And we're already one of the sickest, poorest states in the nation. So that's my biggest concern. And then there were a number of other things tucked into this 1,000-page bill, including a restriction on legislation around AI as it relates to elections and politics. That's very concerning. So the leaders in Washington at the federal level have not truly addressed AI and name and likeness issues. So rather than doing that and actually creating legislation, they've barred the states from creating legislation. So we will likely be in this kind of no man's land where deep fakes and things of that nature start to make their way into the 2026 and 2028 elections.
Yeah, I do kind of see, yeah, because I don't know if you watching social media how these memes, right? Some of these racist memes, bigoted memes, were showing that the EBT cards, showing faces of images of black women, African American women, uh, having the racial stereotypes, right? And showing them crashing out, you know, beating people up over EBT cards. I noticed that a lot of like much of those images are AI driven. So I would like to see um a federal lawsuit against these companies um that are promoting these images, or because I think it's slander, in my opinion, it's slander
Mm,
uh at some level. You creating people who are maybe real or not real. People who are real, I'm just saying, is being up, shown to be doing acts that we have no proof that they're doing. I think there needs to be a lawsuit, an investigation in social media companies, and so forth. That's what I believe, though. So, what and speaking about that, how would you approach um the tech companies, Google, um, Meta, um, what's the other TikTok and the like, when it comes to the community guidelines and how you got certain actors on social media spreading um misandry, uh well, not misandry, well, I put in misandry, um misogyny is what I was saying, in the red pill community, and those who are um pushing the more racist um narrative that goes against the community guidelines. How would you combat that? I mean, on the when it comes to the social media companies promoting hate.
well, I think we have to dig very deep into what legislation do we currently have.
Hmm.
So let's identify that and let's make sure that we are applying that. And as you mentioned before, there will need to be some lawsuits and repercussions for this behavior.
Right.
And I think there are a couple different angles that we can approach. One is clearly identifying AI material. So ensuring that AI is flagged as such whenever
Hmm.
it's used so that people are informed. Now, everyone doesn't have the same degree of critical thinking skills. So that's my concern, is that people will look at something, believe that it's real, become inflamed, and then that obviously influences behaviors that we may not want. So
Right.
we've got to flag these things as this is satirical, right? This
Hmm.
is AI generated. And then I think the second piece is the name and likeness. So utilizing, for example, if you've seen the Dr. King name and likeness
Right.
used in very inappropriate, comical, deprecating ways, that has to stop. And I believe that in those cases, you'll have individuals suing against their own name and likeness. But
Hmm.
I think we also need to make specific legislation around that.
And so do you see a red line in what is, because I think though you mentioned comical and satirical. uh do you think there has to be a fine balance on what is satirical and comedic versus somebody trying to create propaganda.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think there should be some type of uh, boundaries not to cross when it concerning AI, and so forth. 'Cause I seen images of MLK, Dr. King shaking hands with with Donald Trump, or and it's kind of and it looks so real that it fools the, I mean, I think people of today, people who are Zoomers or whatever, will might not understand, or not understand. I don't. I think people who do not have critical thinkers, because I'm not gonna say Zoomers, but people do lack critical thinkers is going to believe it
Right.
or such, and I think that's gonna be a damaging you know way. So um also, would you, because of, and speak my AI, right? Speak my AI, when the Secretary of Homeland Security used the footage of those young black men making
Yes.
that video, would you seek the removal of her from, as an impeachment for promoting that AI video?
Well, we have got to use our congressional powers.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's frustrating so many Americans, that every 2 years, folks come out and say they want the job, they want to represent them. And then they go to Washington and they don't ever see these people again, or they never hear from them, or they don't respond to their emails or phone calls. And they're not asserting their Article One powers around the power of the purse, um, and impeachment. So
Hmm.
we have got to see the Senate in particular really scrutinize the individuals that the administration puts forward for these secretary roles. And I don't know all the details around this situation, but what I do know is that very obviously AI generated video was used, and likely in a way to promote a dialogue that was not totally true. And
Right.
that individual should have been called into Congress, and they should have had a proper investigation as to what happened, and then determine if that was impeachable or not.
Okay. Uh, Now there's been, I don't know if this is rumors, or I heard that there are some special forces that's landing in Venezuela. I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard some stories that, so when it comes to the tax on these boats in Venezuela and so forth, and would you seek the removal of Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, for um for for war crimes, um because I believe, though, that there is no legal recourse of bombing boats, using our military to destroy boats, speedboats off the coast of Venezuela, out there in the open sea, without, 'cause there's no provocation. Would you seek to rear end the Trump administration on their war power abilities, and also seek um, charges against at least charges against the Secretary of Defense for being behind that?
Well, there are so many questions about what's going on around Venezuela. And again, the Congress has got to use their powers. They have the power to declare war.
Hmm.
And we did issue a War Powers Act to really solidify the roles and responsibilities. And if everything that we're hearing is correct, that the administration is asserting that there is a quote unquote war on drugs, and that is why they are bombing these vessels. We have some major issues here. One, the Congress did not vote for that war, they did not certify that war.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe in the last couple of days, we learned about an order to kill everyone after the initial attack of a vessel. So folks were basically fighting for their lives and not at all in a position to attack the United States. And they were ordered killed. So most folks would agree at this point the war crimes have happened. And again, the Congress has a responsibility to hold the administration accountable and the senior officers and the secretary in this case. So I think very likely impeachable offenses happened and they should be going through that process. And there was some chatter, I believe, in the last day that it's unlikely that there will be enough votes to get this moved through. But the Congress has to bring these issues forward. The public is looking at them to drive the right behaviors and to hold administration accountable. And not even starting the process, not even confirming for sure that the votes are not there, I
Mm-hmm.
think is malpractice.
Okay. So and I'm still studying the realms of national security, foreign policy. Um, what is your opinion um, concerning the new the, the so-called peace plan that the Trump administration is touting on between Russia and Ukraine? Are you aware of this, or do you have any idea of? Do you think this is a workable solution or not? Compared to that of the of what of the European plan. What is your analysis or ideas on what's going on in Ukraine?
Well, I've heard of the plan. It's been pretty tight-lipped, so the details have not become really visible just yet. But I think the most important thing is that it's multilateral and
Hmm.
that Ukraine is truly given a seat at the table and a part of the discussion. It does appear that a lot of the discussions are happening bilaterally between the US and Russia and leaving Ukraine out. And that doesn't seem right. So right now it's kind of a wait and see.
Okay, and let me add another the obvious foreign policy thing, or should I say foreign policy disaster. What is your opinion on the Palestinians and the Gazians, what's going on in Gaza and the Israeli government? How would you, as a U.S. senator, would try to because the U.S. Senate advise and consent when it comes to treaties and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So how would you try to remedy that situation in Gaza, the
Well,
war?
I've traveled to the region before, and that's really the extent of my knowledge. So I have got to get fully briefed and up to speed on that. I've obviously never had um, classified briefings before. So some of these issues are difficult to weigh in on at this point in the campaign.
Hmm.
But I think it's very important that both peoples be treated with dignity and respect. And what I saw many years ago was behavior that indicated a full scale extermination of the Palestinians. And while the October attack was horrible and one of the worst ever on Jewish people, the
Hmm.
response was also horrible.
Right. I think that response was like 15 times more than, I mean, the whole, the idea that you're risking a war behind that. I mean, bombing Iran, bombing Syria, bombing, all these other countries surrounding, uh, that has, outside of Israel itself. I think that was um overkill, if you will,
Right.
lack of a better word, overreacting. And then I think that a lot of what was going on is unjustified. Um, you know, um, as response to what happened on October the 7th. Um, so yeah. And speaking about that, how would you deal with the Iranians, since we have bombed some of their nuclear sites? How would you going forward try to mediate between the United States and what ideas you have that you would try to create a more peaceful coexistence with the Iranians and the rest of the Muslim world post?
I'm not the uh, most prepared in international affairs, and my
Uh-huh.
campaign is really strongly focused on kitchen table Alabama
Domestic.
issues.
Right. Right.
Exactly, exactly. But you're absolutely right. The United States Senate has a big piece to play in foreign relations, and that's an area I look forward to being briefed on, but we're just not there yet.
Okay. Okay. Um. So I'm gonna talk about energy here. So Alabama creates is oil producing state. Am I correct or?
But we have the
Um.
Gulf, so um, certainly in the Gulf region,
Uh huh.
I'm not very familiar with statewide activity.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. I'm just wondering. Anyway, what is your energy policy then? Um. If you have any, what is your energy policy in um in Alabama? I mean, do you have any, or you just?
So we are suffering from some of the highest energy costs in the nation, and they continue to escalate. So the policy is taking shape. Some of the critical issues include the numerous AI centers, farms that are coming into the state that are consuming energy as well as water, and really taxing our power grid. So we've got to get a hold of that. We've got to ensure that the communities are able to weigh in on these proposed facilities.
Mhm.
And we've got to make sure that we're not allowing these facilities into the state when we cannot keep up with our own demand for energy. That's starters. And we also have what's called a Public Service Commission. So they are responsible for overseeing our energy producers and ensuring that
Mhm.
they do right by Alabamians. So we have some really interesting and great candidates running. And I think that they have the skill set to ensure that we're keeping affordable rates, fair rates, competitive rates, um, and that the power companies are not uh, mistreating the customers here in the state. So that's one of the most important things that we can do. A lot of these decisions will be made stateside. Um, but in terms of overall policy, I'm all about creating green, healthier options that are more sustainable for the state and throughout the nation.
Okay. In the, I'm a, and I know I might skip over the healthcare part. Let me get back to the healthcare part because I think I forgot something. Um, Concerning the Hobbs decision, um, that ended Roe v. Wade case. What is your opinion on the right to choose reproductive health for women? How would you tackle, you know, since Alabama is a red state, how would you tackle the you know reproductive health?
Well, these are matters that are so personable, are so um, private and personal.
Hmm.
And these are difficult decisions that families need to make with their doctors and, again, privately. So um, that's really been the stance of this campaign is supporting families and making the right healthcare decisions for their family. And that's just it.
Hmm. Okay. All right, that's good. And uh, one question I want to ask is there's been a lot of debate within African American community concerning the idea of reparations. Excuse me, reparations. Um, what do you stand on that idea? Do you think though? Is it achievable? Can it be achieved, or is it? Are you for it or against it? What is your idea on reparations? Since we are in former Confederate states, what is your approach on that idea?
Well, I think the original idea that we all heard about was the 40 acres and a mule.
Hmm.
And now that we are so removed from the injustice, right, 150 years plus now, the way we think about reparations might have to be different. So when I think about the necessary reparations, they are tools that allow the Black population to excel in this country and perform and live a lifestyle that is comparable to the average American. And we know that Black folks are sicker, poorer, less educated, incarcerated at higher degrees. So, how do we fix that? I think about supporting our HBCUs, ensuring that that is something that is fully enshrined and codified in our budgeting process. So these institutions produce something like 20% of Black professionals in engineering, in agriculture, in education. So it seems to always be a toss up every other year or so. Do we fund them? Do we not? I want to make sure that that becomes part of our culture, that we absolutely support HBCUs. I also think about Voting Rights Act and the protections that ensure that we have Black minority opportunity districts. So ensuring that that is protected for the foreseeable future until we see the Black population catch up um, to the American dream. So that's how I would approach it. I think that's feasible. I think um, that is achievable. Um, and that would be my approach.
Okay, okay. Because there was a it was a congressional candidate. I'm sorry, there was a congressional candidate I interviewed. I think it was last year or so, and he was talking about creating a warehouse of the Freeman's Bureau um, that would act as a warehouse to fund give funds to to the African American community, descendants of slaves, um, over time. Um, there was another idea. Well, one of my idea was creating like an infrastructure bank
Hmm.
of sorts that would, anytime when that will fund certain things within the African American community. And also, I like to see the destruction of the redlining,
Hmm.
um, and the gentrification of certain areas. I like to see that to be addressed as well. I mean, that's how I would, that's one of my ideas that I would have done. But I see people have various ideas how to address reparations and and bring some type of racial justice to
Hmm.
America and so forth.
Hmm.
So yeah. So anyway, that I think that's all I can. I think that's all the questions that I have right now. So anything else you want to say? Any last words, sir? Um,
Well, I
I
thank you
think
for
I'm.
the opportunity.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's been a great discussion. And I encourage folks to take a look at my website, DakariLarriett.com. We are looking for folks to get involved and to volunteer from coast to coast. So we'll be looking for people to do phone banking, and you can do that from anywhere in the United States. We'll obviously be looking for folks to do door knocking and canvassing here in Alabama. And of course, we're also looking for donors. So it is so important to get involved. No seat can be taken for granted. And what we can see happening up in Tennessee today in District Number 7 is a solidly red district is now a battleground. And that's what happens when folks get engaged and show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right then. Well, I appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck. So anyway, uh, this concludes my interview, and I'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a good one. I'm out. And I appreciate it. Uh, Donations are appreciated for this as well. I'm out. Y'all have a good one. Peace.